Sakamichi Jiro is rudely awoken when his sister unexpectedly lands on him with a jolt. The impact leaves him disoriented, and before he can gather his senses, he finds himself being dragged and contorted into various positions as she practices her wrestling maneuvers on him. After enduring her relentless onslaught, she finally releases him, leaving him with a bloody nose and a sense of dizziness. While en route to school, he observes the girls nearby fawning over his classmate Suzutsuki's butler, Subaru. Witnessing the superfluous teenage drama infuriates him, so he turns a blind eye to it, making his way to class with his buddy Kurose. Later in the hallway, a girl approaches Jiro, seemingly with the intention of wiping something from his face. However, before she can even touch him, he becomes mortified and flees in the opposite direction, bumping into Kurose. Upon this encounter, Kurose informs him of the rumors circulating in regards to his masculinity, leaving him mortified and humiliated. Overwhelmed, he excuses himself and rushes to the restroom. In the male restroom, he encounters Subaru, wearing female undergarments. Baffled, Jiro attempts to leave to respect Subaru's privacy, but Subaru ambushes him for invading his personal space. During the fight, Jiro discovers that Subaru is in fact a girl. However, he is ultimately knocked unconscious by Subaru's blow to his face. Later, he wakes up in a hospital bed to discover that his legs and right hand are restrained by chains attached to the bedposts. Surprised, he notices that Suzutsuki is asleep next to him, but wakes up shortly after he does. Suzutsuki informs Jiro that he has been detained because he has discovered Subaru's secret. Jiro is overwhelmed by the situation and asks Suzutsuki why Subaru must disguise herself as a man. In response, Suzutsuki explains that men from Subaru's family have worked as butlers for her family for generations. But since Subaru is the last of her family and a girl, Suzutsuki's father took her in as a butler with the condition that her true identity remains a secret. Suzutsuki then strikes a deal with Jiro, offering to help him overcome his gynophobia, fear of ladies, in exchange for his silence about Subaru's true identity. Kurose asks Jiro why he accompanies Subaru to school every day, but Jiro is unable to tell him that Subaru keeps a watchful eye on him. Instead, he claims that they simply happen to cross paths. Later, while in the hallway, one of Subaru's devoted fangirls attacks Jiro, but he is rescued by another. Jiro blames Suzutsuki for the situation, but she tries to make amends by offering him a butler ticket that allows him to make Subaru do anything he wishes. Suzutsuki then arranges a date for Jiro and Subaru, and she instructs Subaru to wear feminine clothing. When Subaru emerges from the dressing room, Jiro is captivated by the perfect dips and curves of her body and realizes that his face has gone red. During their date, Subaru inquires about Jiro's gynophobia. He explains that he developed it due to his mother and sister using him as a punching bag for almost a decade now. Despite Jiro's sister causing a commotion during their outing, their date goes reasonably well, until the next day when the boys are instructed to undergo a physical examination in the infirmary. Subaru appears to be anxious that her true identity will be discovered during the examination. She reveals that she was exempted from the test last year, but this time she and Jiro have been tasked with passing it, as Suzutsuki is no longer available. During the examination, Jiro and Subaru assist each other and exchange measurements in the infirmary. Surprisingly, Jiro manages to pass the initial tests without any issues. However, when a doctor tries to measure Subaru's heart rate, Jiro intervenes and embraces her to prevent the doctor from removing her shirt, resulting in a severe nosebleed and fainting. Fortunately, they are both dismissed from the infirmary. Later, they have lunch together, and Jiro proposes that they become friends. At home, Jiro's little sister reveals that she is in love with Subaru. Upon hearing this, Jiro goes bananas. Subaru comes to accompany Jiro to school, but unfortunately, Jiro's little sister Kureha unknowingly steps out of the washroom wearing only her undergarments, causing an awkward moment. Later, Jiro shares the incident with Suzutsuki, but Kureha appears and Suzutsuki pretends that her and Jiro are dating and agrees to set Kureha up with Subaru. Kureha is initially skeptical, but Suzutsuki convinces her by revealing that she knows of Jiro's birthmark on his side. Despite Jiro's discomfort, Suzutsuki books a double date for the four of them at a Hawaiian poolside on Sunday. As they arrive, Jiro instantly goes ahead to greet Subaru, but she points a gun at him for having caught her off guard. Inside the changing room, Jiro helps Subaru through a group of naked men as she changes into her masculine swimming attire. Kureha leaves with Subaru to learn to swim, while Suzutsuki shares a childhood event with Jiro. She reveals that she and Subaru were kidnapped and held for ransom at the same poolside years ago, causing them to grow apart. She also hints that Subaru has a weakness, but refuses to elaborate. Later, as Jiro and Subaru chat by the pool, Subaru confesses that she had a fight with her father over him. Suddenly, they notice a small girl drowning in the pool. Prompting Jiro to rush to her aid, he manages to rescue her, but faints in the process. While in an unconscious state, he experiences a dream where his father advises his 5-year-old self to never hesitate in calling for someone they love to stay by their side, and to also stay by their side to protect them. His father also explains that his name means near and that he should always surround himself with trustworthy people. Upon awakening, he finds Subaru beside him and a young boy running towards them with a cell phone, informing them that Suzutsuki and Kureha have been abducted. Jiro discovers that Subaru is vulnerable to knives and impulsively strikes her in the abdomen to keep her from rushing to the kidnappers and goes in place of her. There, he confronts the abductor and engages in a physical altercation. Meanwhile, Subaru regains consciousness and embarks on a mission to rescue Jiro and the abductees. She discovers Jiro in a battered state and swiftly overpowers the abductor, only to realize that he is her own father. It turns out that the kidnapping was orchestrated to bring Subaru and Jiro closer together. Jiro eagerly opens his instant noodles when he is interrupted by the doorbell. Upon opening the door, he is surprised to see Subaru standing there with cat ears and a tail in a trance-like state. On call, Suzutsuki explains to him that he is now responsible for Subaru, as she has been kicked out of the mansion after an argument with her father. Later, Subaru volunteers to do Jiro's laundry, but as she takes a sniff off of his towel, he walks in on her. Though Subaru is embarrassed, Jiro doesn't seem to mind and takes a bath. Subaru joins him later, offering to scrub the back of her master. They're caught off guard when Kureha returns from the training club earlier than expected. While in bath, they hear Kureha discovering a set of female undergarments outside the bathroom, causing panic. Kureha faints upon seeing Subaru in the bathtub as she breaks in. During dinner, the three of them share a meal of instant noodles. Jiro begins to protest when he notices Kureha pretending to enjoy them, but she pinches him under the table, causing him to go pale. To their amusement, Suzutsuki comes over. She offers to be their maid, but Jiro declines the offer, stating that they already have a butler and don't need a maid. However, he suddenly faints due to a cold. Subaru takes care of him with great concern. Later, Suzutsuki reveals that she has come to take Subaru back to her mansion, but first, they must reconcile with Subaru's father. They travel to where Subaru's father lives, but Subaru intervenes to protect Jiro when her father becomes aggressive. She confesses her worry for Jiro's health, but Jiro insists that she return to her father's mansion, and she obeys him. The next day, Suzutsuki kisses Jiro, leaving him dazed, or rather scarred for the rest of his existence. While on his way to school, Jiro is hit by a girl riding her bike, causing him to sustain serious injuries, but ultimately surviving the accident. The girl remains unconscious for a brief moment before regaining her composure and contemplating whether to contact the police or not. However, upon discovering that Jiro is still alive, she becomes startled. Recognizing her school uniform, Jiro inquires about her name, but she refuses to disclose it and instead accuses him of being a pervert for wanting his glasses back, which were stuck between her thighs. As Jiro puts his glasses back on, the girl realizes that he is Kureha's older brother, and the girl introduces herself as Masamune Usami, and thereafter launches into a frenzied assault that leaves him hospitalized in the infirmary. There, he finds Subaru next to his hospital bed. She tells him she found him lying in the middle of the road unconscious and therefore brought him to school. After Subaru asks Jiro to accompany her to the school festival, Jiro mentions wanting to redo his first kiss, leading Subaru to mistakenly think that he is referring to the time she gave him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Her father interrupts them and suggests a cross-dressing cosplay cat cafe theme for the festival. Okay. Later on the school roof, Masamune reveals to Jiro that she is a member of the S4, Subaru's fangirl organization, and blackmails him into being her boyfriend for the festival, using evidence of his pretend date with Subaru at the arcade to undermine the observational committee. Upon overhearing Masamune's demand to be Jiro's girlfriend, Subaru punches him in the stomach and runs off in tears. Later, Jiro accompanies Masamune to buy a swimsuit at the mall, which makes him quite embarrassed. However, they end up becoming friends before parting ways. The next day, as preparations for the school festival continue, Nakuru, one of Jiro's classmates, is seen spying on Subaru. At the school festival, Subaru interrupts Jiro and Masamune's pretend date, and they end up at an animal cafe where they run into Kureha. Despite Kureha's joyful demeanor, Masamune feels intimidated and asks Jiro to continue without her since she wasn't enjoying the date anyway. Nakuru, who is dressed as a sheep mascot, approaches Jiro and introduces herself as a member of the handcrafting club and the chairwoman of the observational committee. Nakuru is aware of Masamune's plan to sabotage the committee, especially since Masamune had previously lied about protecting Jiro from Subaru's fan club, the S4. Jiro tells Subaru about the two fan clubs organizing a meeting that could turn into a conflict with him stuck in the middle. At the meeting, Jiro and Subaru are surprised to discover that Subaru's father is a representative of the S4. However, the meeting is actually a quiz bowl focused on Subaru, and when the final question about Subaru's first kiss is asked, she reluctantly reveals that it was Jiro during the swimming pool incident. Later, her father tells Jiro that Masamune has resigned from the S4, and he finds her alone on the school roof. Masamune reveals that Subaru has become more sociable since Jiro came into her life. In response, Jiro confides in Masamune about his gynophobia and introduces her to Subaru and her father as her new friends. The following day, Masamune vows to help Jiro overcome his fear of women, but only after he becomes comfortable addressing her by her first name. And on this positive note, our recap